Hello, the wonderful class of Dr. Harris. How's everybody doing this morning? I have my wonderful superintendent, Dr. Pam Moran, and this is the field study project for interview a central office person or county or division-wide superintendent. Dr. Moran, can you say hello?
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with Wes early on a, I think it's Wednesday morning.
It's really.
I love being in class with you. And I can see that Wes is on a roll already with his phone.
It's really early. So just as we've done in the past, we're going to put the phone down so that everyone can hear the audio, and then we'll condense everything later. All right. So without any further ado, we're going to get started. So Dr. Moran, and actually I'll put it right here so you can see us both. And I'll edit that out.
All right, Wes. Are we both in here?
Yeah, we're both in there.
All right, great.
All right, so Dr. Moran, the first question, what
Yes.
made you want to become a superintendent?
Well, you know, Wes, it's kind of an interesting story because I'm not sure I would have described myself as having had a career aspiration early on to be a superintendent, which I think is a little different than people today, because I hear some of our younger generation administrators say, or people that are in the pipeline like you say, I really think I can see myself in that role. I really started out as a teacher and thought, well, you know, I could be in the classroom for a long time, but ended up having somebody say to me, Pam, I think that you're, as a leader, have something to offer that could influence beyond the classroom. So I went back and started working on a degree just as you are right now to get my administrative degree. Became first an associate principal in middle school, then moved up to working some with central office around staff development, and had a mentor say to me, you know, I really think you really need to go after this principalship. And so I did that, and I kind of saw myself in a school that I dearly loved, an elementary school. And I'd actually been a middle and high school teacher and administrator before that, thinking, you know, I could do this for a long time, and I did for 10 years. And then had a superintendent who came to me and said, would you like to go into considered going back to central office, and a position came open to direct curriculum and instruction. I did that. Then unexpectedly, the assistant superintendent left, and the superintendent said, I really want you to consider applying to be the assistant superintendent. And I thought, do I really want to do this? And I did go into that as focusing on student learning. And then he left earlier than his contract would have done. He decided to retire early just because he was you know, personally ready to do that. And I realized that I had a lot of people saying to me, Pam, the work that we're doing in Albemarle is really important, and if you don't step up to go after the superintendency, then we could lose that. And I realized at that point that I really felt like, you know, I've got the skills to do this. I can do this as well as other people I see doing it. Why wouldn't I? And so I decided to apply for the job, was an interim superintendent for a semester, and ended up getting offered the position, and I've never regretted it. It's a great job. It certainly is not without its stresses.
Principal Thomas, can you come in? I'm sorry, Dr.
That's okay. Hello. I'm doing an interview with
So my
Wes.
principal just walked in. My wonderful, lovely, bad-looking. He thinks he's the best-looking guy on campus. See, look at him. He thinks he's a model. Yeah, you.
Good morning, Jay.
So Principal Thomas, we are doing a field study interview for one of my classes where you had to interview a central office administrator or superintendent, and luckily our superintendent came.
So you're expecting Pam to help you get an A in your class, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. That's exactly what I'm hoping. Yeah.
I'm not sure I will always give him the answers he's looking for, but we'll see.
Well, thanks for stopping in, Principal Thomas.
Mr. High Tech here, surrounded by multiple phones, devices, a classroom of laptops.
Tech guy.
Mr. Techno.
Yeah, I like that.
So,
thanks for stopping in, Principal
good to see you,
Thomas.
Jay.
So the next question is, how would you describe your leadership style?
Well, I think that I've always really tried to model myself off of leaders that I've really respected the most. And I'm not sure there's any one leadership style that is the end-all, be-all. It's not a multiple choice test of A, B, C, D. This is the one that's the right answer to pick. But what I do believe is that you have to lead from authentically who you are. And one of the things that I find is that just as in a classroom, the most important place that you start as a leader is in building relationships. So I like to think of myself as a relational leader, who reaches out to connect people, to catalyze work by saying, hey, Wes, do you know so-and-so? Have you ever worked with? Or, you know, are you aware of somebody I could talk to? And so I really try to network people together in order to really catalyze the work that I think is the important work that we do. At the same time, one of the things that I also know is that, and I say this oftentimes to young leaders, assistant principals, principals that are in their first year, that management is as important as leadership, but people should never see the management side of your work. What you want them to see is the leadership. So if you manage well under the table, what that gives you the time to do is to lead above the table. And that's where you want people to really see your focus. But I got to tell you, if you're not a good manager and things fall apart on that end, then it's going to be really hard for you to be a good leader. So those two go hand in hand. I will also say that I think that good leaders, in my mind, and I've seen people approach this differently, but that people really have a real clear sense of vision, and that while that's built together, that a leader who waits on other people to basically provide the vision to them typically are people who are going to be behind the curve instead of front of the curve in terms of the work that you're trying to do. So I think leaders have to have a vision, and they have to know how to empower the people around them to catch that vision, to really value that vision, and to be a part of that vision, to collaboratively build that vision. So I think that leaders have to be visionary, they have to be great managers, they have to be great leaders. And most importantly for me, I believe that the greatest leaders that we've ever seen always are relational people. And that, you know, one of the things about the relational part of it is that when you build relationships, you build leadership in others, so that when you walk away, whether it's to take a new job, whether it's to retire, whatever it is that you choose to do in life that may move you out of a position, if you've built great leadership through relational connectivity with people, then when you walk away, people are going to say, we own this work, and they're going to continue it forward. Too often what I've seen, quite frankly, Wes, are leaders who, you know, they lead by compliance, and when they leave, it all falls apart. But when you lead from relationships, and you've built people who find the leadership inside themselves or see that leadership really built up by a leader, then I think when that leader leaves for whatever reasons, the work continues, and the next generation of leaders steps up and takes it over.
Well said. I think I learned a lot just now.
No, I don't think you did. I think you understand that very intuitively yourself.
So the next question
that's what
is,
you do with your kids.
Well, yeah, try to.
And
try
people
to.
around you.
Yeah, that's very important for
Yes,
me,
it is.
being able to build connectivity and be a leader that when you leave, people can continue to carry out the work.
That's right.
I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. So
That's a good thing to hear.
Yeah, I don't plan on going anywhere. So what do you think, speaking of not leaving, what are some of the goals that we have for the school division this year?
Well, I will tell you that our number one goal, and we actually have a school board that has endorsed one goal for the whole division, and that is that we really equip our kids with the lifelong learning competencies to be life ready, trying to get this in the right order for us, but to be really ready for life. And what that for us means is that they're ready for post-secondary education. What does learning look like after you leave high school? And what does it look like for you to go to work? You know, whatever way you choose to do that. So that some kids go to work right at age 18. Some kids, you know, go to community college and maybe get a job. Some kids go into a 4-year. Some kids go into the military. Whatever choices that a kid makes, what I think we really have put our intense focus on is saying we want our kids to be lifelong learning ready, and we have 12 competencies that we've identified as lifelong learning competencies, as you know, and we think those apply whether you're a person in your home, your community, your next school experience, if it's community college or 4-year, or your workplace work, that no matter where you go, if you have those competencies, you're likely going to be a very successful person in life.
Yeah, we really push the lifelong learning skills here at the school, and we've been seeing it make a huge impact.
That's right.
In a lot of our little ones.
And then we have some objectives under that we think are pretty critical. You know, one is that we believe that you know, that we want every student engaged, and that's one we really have to work on, because I will tell you that when we look at our data Dr. Haas, who's our assistant superintendent working with strategic planning, just recently shared a graph that shows that our highest levels of engagement are in elementary schools. It drops a little bit in middle school, but 8th grade through 12th grade is where we have kids reporting the least engagement, the greatest level of boredom in school.
Really?
Yeah, it's really true. And so one of the things that I think is that we really have to look at when we say we want every student to be engaged, what is it that we as educators do, whether it's a teacher, a principal, superintendent, to be sure that our educators are taking the steps they can take in order to provide that environment for kids to be engaged. Now, you know, school, history's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Some kids like to read, some kids don't. Some kids probably love the idea of being in a marketing class, and others think that, you know, that's not their cup of tea. One of the things that we also find is that when kids have a lot of opportunities and choices, that they tend to be more engaged, and it helps them to really see value or to find the resilience to be okay with times during the school day where perhaps it's not their cup of tea or their favorite time. And I'll give you an example. You know, I know that there's a group of teachers here that really work with how do we build out informal learning experiences for, let's just say, kids that are in poverty or kids of color, and get them engaged in the work. And I recently saw a video from this school in which a young woman was talking about the music construction studio. And she said, you know, sometimes we get bored in school, but when you have a place like this to come and find your passion, then you can start to apply that in other places during the day. And that just really caught me, because what she was saying is, if I can find this place in the school day where I can get excited and passionate about something I love, then maybe I can transfer that to a place where a teacher who loves history and is teaching history, that I can really understand their passion and maybe connect mine to theirs. I think that's kind of cool.
I agree. Very
You know,
cool. Very,
so-
very cool. So last question. Let me ask you this. I know you are brilliant in every shape, form, and fashion of the word. No, I'm not saying that because she's a superintendent. She's really, really, really smart. And Dr. Shackelford, or excuse me, Dr. Newsom, the superintendent.
Marcus.
Yes. He speaks very, very highly of you. He's our professor for this class.
We have a little bit of a mutual admiration society, because I tell you what, Marcus has done amazing work in a school division. And the larger your system is, the harder it is to affect the kinds of changes that head us towards contemporary learning. And I think that Marcus has just been an incredible role model for people all over the place to be able to say, rather than to be able to say, well, what if we did this? What if we decided we were going to roll out a one-to-one for 30,000 kids or whatever? What would that look like? Marcus puts that out there, and he doesn't use the size of Chesterfield or perhaps the diversity of some of the schools or any of the things that sometimes we use as excuses of why we don't want to make changes. He's a person who's always open to what's the next step that's going to really help us engage more kids in Chesterfield. I think that's a great model out there. And so it's kind of a, you know, I certainly have great admiration for your professor too.
And I didn't pay her to say that, Dr. Newsom, so that's an A.
He knows how I feel.
So the last question, let me ask you this. If you weren't a superintendent, what would you be doing?
Oh gosh, you know, that's a fascinating question, because when I was in college, I literally thought that my career was going to be chasing snakes around in the Everglades. All right?
What?
So, yes, because I was a field biology sort of, you know, that was my passion. And I chased a guy to the University of Virginia when we graduated, and he was going into grad school here. I ended up teaching. He ended up finishing his degree. He ended up leaving. I ended up staying. And I just, you know, I'd always really loved working with kids, and I'd done that. I taught Sunday school with younger children. I was a third base coach for my little brother's little league team. I loved baseball and softball. You know, so I always had been engaged in different ways. I actually started a program when I was in college for girls in my hometown, Bamberg, that you know, because we had all kinds of things for boys to do in the summer, but not a lot for girls. So I went to the city council and said, hey, I'd like to start something for girls. And they gave me, I think, $100 in use of the community center. And what we did was we started a program for girls in the summer, and I ran that. So I've always had this real, you know, passion for working with people. And children certainly was something, but I literally thought that was what I would be doing, was being a herpetologist. And it's kind of funny you asked, because this morning I'm getting ready to go over to Greer Elementary, and I'm going to be doing, they've got a snake, but nobody that's really comfortable talking with children about snakes. And so I'm going to go in and I'm doing an entire morning of workshops with kindergartners and first graders, and I'll be using their corn snake as part of my props. So, so I'm teaching this morning. And so, when you ask, what do you think that you would find yourself doing? I can't imagine that I would ever disconnect from education in terms of teaching opportunity. And anybody that looks at me knows I've got this nice white hair. And so, when you're in that boomer generation, you're constantly thinking about, okay, what do you do when you retire? Or what do you do next in life? And I think that I will always probably position myself, whether it's as a volunteer, whether it's as continuing to work in education, in some way that's really connected to what ultimately I think fuels us all. And that. But I remember when you were working in the government sector, and and I just sensed that you had this, you were talking to me about wanting to get something started for youth in this community. And I thought, what's he doing that when he obviously loves young people so much? And remember saying, have you ever thought about, and and you kind of tucked it away and continued doing what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, the next thing I know, like a really great penny, you're showing up. And I'm going, wow, he's really going to do this. He's going to pursue education as a career. And what a gift that's going to be to the people that he works with, both peers as well as young people. So here you are.
I was telling you off the camera, that conversation, you have changed my life for the better. I'll always be grateful for you, because that initial conversation, have you ever thought about being a teacher or going into education? Because I think that's your passion, has undoubtedly been the one single thing that's changed my life. I've been able to do and accomplish a lot of things, but Dr. Morant, I'm forever in debt to you, because
well, the thing I always
you really, you and Dr. Harrison, you two have really helped me out in ways that you'll never be able to even understand.
Now you should give him the A. But I will say this, that what I look for and what I believe has been the continuity of education since the very first person stood on the banks of a river with a bunch of little kids around them and drew with a stick in the sand, and that was the first teacher. I've thought ever since then that what teachers do, what educators do, is they pay it forward. And that's what has caused civilization to move forward. It's what's caused us to have the inventions that we've had that have made us better. It's what has caused us, when we hit tough times and challenges in the world. Education is what really causes us to stay together as a civilization that continues to move forward despite the challenges. And it's no coincidence that when you have people that are in conflict, that oftentimes one side or the other will really try to close down education. And you see that in places around the world even today. That when people are educated, it changes the world. It changes a country. It changes the way a community behaves. It changes what we value. And if you take education away, then you have a level of control over people that you don't have when people are educated.
Absolutely.
And that's a lesson for us all.
Absolutely right. Well, Dr. Moran, thank you so much for coming on.
Wes.
I appreciate it.
And now I'm going to go teach.
Yeah, she's going to do that. Dr. Newsom, 700 class. We will see you all later. Bye-bye. All right, this is Wes Bellamy from Albemarle High School, here with the lovely, wonderful, my co-favorite, Miss Dr. Co-favorite Dr. Moran when you see this. But the lovely Superintendent of Charlottesville City Schools, Dr. Rosa Atkins. How you doing, Dr. Atkins?
I'm doing wonderful.
All right. Great. So we have a few questions. So for the class, I'm going to put this thing on my book bag.
Can we just do the audio and
the
not
audio?
the video?
Yeah, we can just do the audio so you all will be able to hear the questions. And we have 10 questions that we're going to ask Dr. Atkins, and we will move on from there. So the first question, first and foremost, Dr. Atkins, thank you so much for meeting with me. We really appreciate it. The first question is, what made you want to become a superintendent?
I didn't want to become a superintendent. Let's establish that first. Becoming a superintendent has never been my goal,
Really?
really. It was not any intentional effort that I gave to becoming a superintendent. Education has been my passion since I was very young, and like most people who move from the classroom into an administrative role, there's someone at some point who tapped you on the shoulder and said, this might be a good thing for you.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
that happened to me. When I was a teacher, I was taking a workshop, and someone came by. I was doing Myers-Briggs inventory and walked past my desk and pointed to my profile and said, that's the profile of an administrator.
Wow.
And before that comment, I had never given any thought at all to being an administrator.
Wow. That's really impressive. So how many years have you been a superintendent now?
9.
9 years. And this is your second stop, rather?
First
Stop. Oh, so you've been with CCS for 9 years.
9 years.
Wow, that is incredible. So let me ask this question. How would you describe your leadership style?
Much of what I do is I am transformational.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no question about that. I am situational, and I am collaborative, but I will not hesitate in making a decision when I need to make a decision.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think I have a combination of many different leadership styles, and if one is successful, they use those according to the situation. And the most important thing is that you've got to develop talent.
Yes, ma'am.
Hire the right people and develop talent all around you, and trust your people.
Yes, ma'am. You do a really good job, I think. I guess from the outside looking in, of collaborating with a lot of different people, specifically your admin team and Miss Gertrude, Ivory, and your teachers. Like, you guys seem to always look to work together, as well as work and reach across the lines. And one of the things I admire about you is that you're very community oriented. You take you take being in the community very seriously. How did that come to be? I mean, you see some superintendents who they do what they can with the community, but you really actively pursue community endeavors.
Because I enjoy our students and families. And Wes, you have to know that when I grew up, I am first generation college graduate.
Really? Wow.
Actually, I am first generation high school graduate.
Really?
In my family.
And now a superintendent.
Most people assume that that I grew up in a different background than what I grew up in. My mother had a primary school education along with my father.
Wow.
And my mother and my father talked a lot about the importance, although they did not have it. Her mother was a sharecropper. So her mother wasn't too far removed from slavery. And so my grandmother, my mother's mother, was a sharecropper, and my mother grew up on sharecropper property.
Wow.
So at a very early age, she was skipped from first grade to second grade because she was so bright.
Wow.
However, she had to stop school because she had to work on the farm. And the same thing with my father. And my mother never lost the passion for education. And she communicated that often to her children.
Wow.
So education has always been, and the importance of believing in young people. I remember that there were people in my community who believed in me, even though there were, lots of poverty. No one ever told us we were poor.
Right.
I think we do students and families such a disservice when we buy the poor button and we pin it on them, and they wear it on the front and they wear it on the back, and everywhere they go, there's a comment about them being poor. We didn't know we were poor. We knew we were loved. We knew that we were respected, and we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt we were expected to achieve.
Wow. Man, you're gonna make me you're gonna make my allergies mess up in here. So moving on to the next question. What are some of the goals your school division has for this year?
Oh, Great. We have a strategic plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Our strategic plan goes through 2017. So we've worked with the community to develop that strategic plan. Our vision statement, our mission statement is personal and academic success for all. That's very important to us. So this year we want to get deeper into building capacity amongst our students. We've come a long way. We have a 90% graduation rate.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is really going in the right direction. Our goal now is to get it up to 93% next year. And we think we may be able to do that. That each student individually, that we personalize the learning for our students, and that we build capacity amongst our students. And we help our students dream about the future, that what they can be in the future, so that they know what they're aiming for. Help them to develop realistic goals about their potential, who they can be, and what's available to them post-secondary education.
Wow, that's really good, Dr. Atkins. That's very inspiring. I know one of the things that I felt was, and as we go to the next question, I know some of the work that we were doing this summer, and you made a statement that's literally been sticking out in my brain forever about if you have an African-American male who comes through Charlottesville City Schools, that young man has a 90% chance of being successful. And that's something that I think we must do first of all, you all are doing a phenomenal job, and we must do a better job of making sure we get that number out. Because if you go to this school, you're in this school system, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be successful.
You're going to be successful.
Yeah,
We have not always had that reputation.
Yes, ma'am.
We had the reputation that we didn't graduate our black students. We now have the reputation, and it's getting stronger and stronger each year, that if you come to our school system, you will be about business.
That's right.
And we will graduate you.
And we know you don't play, so you gotta come in and do what you're supposed to do. Let me ask you this next question. What do you think is the responsibility of a superintendent, and how do you handle it all?
My responsibility is very closely aligned with the responsibility of a classroom teacher. Classroom teacher is responsible for making sure that classroom operates orderly, that she has the best supplies that she can possibly have, or he can possibly have, and they provide the best service for the students as possible. And that's what a superintendent must do.
Wow.
You must make sure that you have a school system that operates efficiently and properly, that you hire the best people possible, and you have the best resources and materials possible in order to allow your people to get the work done that needs to be done.
Now, how do you handle it all? I mean, Charlottesville City Schools isn't a huge school division, but nonetheless, it's pretty wide. I mean,
it's complex.
It's complex to say the least. You have a lot of different schools to go to. You have a lot of different people to interact with. How do you handle it all?
Well, Wes, let me use you as an example. If you were on my team, you would have part of that responsibility. I would be depending on you to understand our core mission, to understand our core values, and that when you go out to take on your responsibilities as one of the leaders in our school division, that you would hold that dear. And everything that you do it with excellence, and you do it appropriately, and you service the people in our school division. So you build capacity amongst your leaders and your team. And it doesn't happen with one person, it happens as a team, that you get the message out, you get the work out, and you perform your job responsibilities with excellence.
Well said, well said. So what do you think are some of the highlights from your division from the past couple of years? I know we have a ton.
Rate.
Yeah.
Graduation rate is definitely top on the list. Student achievement, we've seen huge growth.
Yeah.
We have seen by our AVID program, our black students really believe in themselves, and they're really determined now. You go in the high school in the AVID classroom, and there are 2 and 3 and 4 college acceptance letters per student that's on the wall in that classroom.
Right.
That's pretty impressive. We've recently helped our students to understand engineering.
Yeah.
What is engineering? How does engineering relate to science and mathematics? And is engineering just for the smartest? We're starting to break down some of those barriers, and every student that we have in our school division is a part of our engineering program.
Wow, really?
Every student that comes into our 7th and 8th grade,
Yeah.
they are part of our engineering
At
program.
Buford Middle School.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, under the tutelage of Principal Eric Johnson.
That's
You all
right.
are doing phenomenal work over at Buford.
Every student, we started a language, a foreign language program.
Really?
In our kindergarten about 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, Spanish. We have moved that program along now. Last year, for the first time, every single student in 6th grade took Spanish 1. So every student can leave 6th grade with a high school credit.
Wow.
So every student, it was a requirement because they've been having Spanish since
Since kindergarten, yeah.
They took Spanish 1. So now our students have multiple opportunities to earn high school credit before they get to high school.
Wow.
Spanish, earth science, engineering. There's a host of at Buford, Walker, and Buford that they can earn high school credit. That pushes them towards that advanced studies diploma, which we want.
Because I've noticed, especially with the way you all have developed your curriculum and the paths that you all really want to push your students to not just get regular diplomas or certificates of attendance, but you all really want the advanced diplomas. So,
and language has traditionally been one of the areas that especially black students have stumbled in by offering this starting in kindergarten for our students. And they can earn a Spanish credit. They can earn 1 in 6th grade, then they can take Spanish 2 in 7th grade, they can take Spanish 3 in 8th grade. They are well on their way to earning an advanced studies diploma.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, I guess that takes my next question. Are you pleased with your current curriculum? And if not, what would you like to see improve? But I think
We're still tweaking it.
Really?
We are. One of the other adjustments that we will be making is looking at our science sequence. And we have moved earth science down to the middle school. We are now looking to phase in a movement of physical science to the 6th grade. And we need to put in ecology at the middle school.
Wow.
Because of the engineering that's pushing us to resequence our sciences. So we're looking at that now.
Impressive. So, like in regards to technology, I'm assuming that's one of the initiatives that you all are working on in terms of the sequencing. I'd love to hear more about the 3D printer that you got, the program that you all have over at Buford. One of my questions is, in regards to technology, what are some initiatives that you're working on? But that is phenomenal in every shape, form, or fashion. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
It's pretty impressive. What it is a partnership with the University of Virginia, their School of Engineering and their Curry School Teacher Preparation Program, and our science department. And we have partnered together to align the curriculum of science, mathematics, and engineering, and fusing those together. And we're looking at physical science first. And with physical science, one of the problems, you learn your experiments in science and you learn scientific principles. And then when you go to problem solve, that's where the engineering comes in. Engineering is all about designing to solve a problem. So one of the problems that we've had in the past is students tried to solve problems and they didn't have a mechanism by which they could create the solutions. Well, with 3D printing, rapid prototyping, they now can learn the scientific concepts. We can present them with a problem. They can design a solution and print out the solution.
Incredible.
And that's the 3D printing part of it,
Incredible.
rapid prototyping.
Incredible. Before we get out of here, I'll just have 2 more questions.
Okay.
And this is aside from education. If you weren't a superintendent, what would you be doing?
Being a grandmother.
Being a
I would be with my, spending more time with the grandchildren. I have 3 of them, Aaron, Bryson, and Brielle.
Yeah.
I would be spending an incredible amount of time with them and traveling.
Now, where are you originally from?
Originally a very small town south of Petersburg, Emporia.
Emporia. Okay.
Yeah.
We go through Emporia all the time. And then where'd you go to college? Where'd you go to
Virginia
school?
State.
You're a Trojan.
I am.
Now we're gonna bring the camera back. She is a Trojan.
A Trojan.
There you go. Trojan. She is a Trojan. Good,
I
good,
pledged at Virginia State.
Yeah.
I went to Virginia State. I love being a Trojan.
good. Now you got your bachelor's from there
And masters.
and master's from there, and then you got your doctorate from where?
Virginia Tech.
From Virginia Tech. Okay, so you're a Trojan and a Hokie.
A Trojan and a Hokie.
Man, but we'll just go with the Trojan.
We'll go
Yeah, we'll go with the
I'm
Trojan.
good with being a Trojan. I was awarded the Alumni of the Year
Wow.
award.
Yeah.
2000, what's that?
2011.
11.
So 2011, and we're gonna go over and get some video of that. 2011 was a very great year for
It was.
Dr. Atkins. She was not only the alumnus of the year for VSU, but she was also the superintendent of the year in 2011. That was really impressive. How'd that make you feel? I mean, I know you were, yeah, excited. That's really good. Well, I don't have any other questions. You have any words of wisdom for our cohort? I'm sure. Well, I do have one more question. I'm going to ask this for the class. Does the program get easier? Because they are working us right now.
No, it will not get easier, and you don't want it to get easier. You want it to stay rigorous so that when you finish the program, you will be very proud of your accomplishments. And you will know that you're well qualified to be a superintendent.
Well, class, we heard it there, so I guess
And you
we don't
really-
want
We
it.
need you to be in the candidate pool for the superintendency.
Yes, ma'am.
We need more diversity.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much, guys. Let's thank Dr. Atkins for coming through and helping us out. So we'll show her some love, and I'll see you all at class, and we'll finish this up then. All right, bye.